Hey guys, so I'm finally filming a book haul after 6 months. I honestly think this is the longest I've ever gone without a book haul, but I just wasn't buying a lot of books, obviously because I wasn't really feeling like reading, so I wasn't really keeping an eye out for book releases. And especially with the move as well, I was really trying not to buy books at all because I didn't want to have to move more books. And then when I was at my grandma's, I didn't really have a lot of space to keep books, and now that I'm here, I've bought a lot more books. So I'm actually only doing a book haul from the months of June to November, and then I'm doing a separate book haul for December because I didn't want this video to be too large. And I kept meaning on filming it, and then I'd end up buying another book, and then it'd be like another 2 weeks of waiting for it to turn up. So it just kept accumulating here. And I have 23 books to show you guys, and that's 23 books that I've bought / received over 6 months. Like, I think that's a really good job, and it's really good for me that I haven't been buying like a lot of books, but also I haven't been reading a lot, so it's not like I'm making any progress on that front. But I'm excited for this book haul, and I know probably a lot of these books you have seen in other videos where I've talked about them, but I'm finally actually hauling them. So in June I only bought 2 books, and these were like the last books that I bought before we moved because I needed to buy a couple, and I was really hoping they were going to turn up before we left, and thankfully one of them did, but then the other didn't turn up, and I'll talk about that a bit later. But the first book I got was The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson. So I listened to this one on audiobook, but I was always going to buy it because I have the trilogy, so I needed it to match the series. So this was only a, like, you know, purchase even though I've already read it kind of situation, but I'm still really excited that I have this book. It was a really good read. I do highly recommend picking up this series if you haven't already. I'm always talking about this series as a good one to read. It's one of my main recommendations. This book was really good, and it really followed on with the story quite well, and I really enjoyed it. And the book that got lost in the mail was One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. So I ended up buying this book online, and it never turned up, so I ended up going to Book Depository and getting them to process a refund, and then I bought this copy at QBD. And then the next day this copy turned up at my grandma's, and it was redirected to her house. So I got it refunded, but then I bought this new copy. But then the issue here is they actually do not match at all because this one is bigger than the other one. So the one from Book Depository does match my copy of Red, White and Royal Blue, but this one doesn't. So I just have this extra copy that I do need to get rid of eventually. I haven't even put it in my bookshelves. It just kind of chills there. So I'm probably going to try and like put it on my Love Oz YA page and just get someone to pay shipping. Like, that should be enough really. Like, I don't need to make any profit from this because technically I didn't pay for this one, but I paid for this one, and they were like the same price. But it's still really random that I have 2 copies of the book. I just loved it twice as much. And then in July I didn't buy any books until right near the end of the month, and this was when I was already in Newcastle, but before we had the lockdown in Newcastle for like 3 months. Basically there was a book that was coming out that I was really adamant that I wanted to buy, so when I went into the store I bought it. But then I also found another book I was highly anticipating and also bought that one. And then the third book was another anticipated read that I ended up buying online, and it turned up pretty quickly. But these are all books that I was like, you know, I'm anticipating these, I really need to get them, but I was trying to not focus on any type of book titles for anything else. So the main one I went into the store to buy was Anyway the Wind Blows by Robo Rouse. I've been pretty excited for this book because Wayward Son really didn't give us a lot of information, and it's actually such a short book that I feel like there's hopefully going to be more stuff resolved in this book, because this is quite a chunky book. So I'm a bit hesitant to actually pick it up because there's probably going to be a lot going on, and I haven't been really reading at a fast pace at all at the moment. But I did really enjoy Carry On, and I knew I definitely wanted to finish off the trilogy and have them all in my life. So like, I have it now. I don't know when I'm going to read it, but I'm still very keen. And the book that I did see randomly at the shops was Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So there was a different edition of this book that I did want to buy. Like, there was a different cover, but it was at the shops at the time, and it was relatively cheap, and it matches the size of my Daisy Jones and the 6, because I hate it when an author has all of their books the same height and then they suddenly change it, so then the rest of them are different heights, and I'm like, why? But this is a book I have been highly anticipating since I first read Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and then she started to release Daisy Jones, and then this one was her new book. I definitely think Taylor Jenkins Reid is going to be an auto-buy author for me because she's just really good. Like, she's a really good author, and I really like what she writes and her style. And I definitely don't think I'm going to get to this in the month of December because I've actually only gotten to 2 of my Hemisphere Christmas Game books. I'm on the 3rd, but I don't even know if I'm going to finish that one. So like, I was really like highly expecting to read more than I did, but it's not an issue. So this is going to be another one that's going to have to be left for a little while until I get another opportunity to read it. And the last book that was like an absolute must because I really needed it was Gods and Monsters by Shelby Mchurin, because I needed to know how the trilogy was going to end. And yes, in my opinion, the first book is still the highlight of the series and it did go downhill, but I'm glad that I finally got it, and I made sure I read it at my grandma's because with all the time off that I had, I did read more than I have been lately, even though it still wasn't a great amount, but I was getting to like 5 books a month and now I'm barely getting to like 2 or 3. I'm gonna see how I go. Hopefully it gets better, but I definitely am happy I read it. This is another thick book, but I just knew I needed a copy of this because I needed to know how it ended, and now that I do, I don't really care that much anymore. But I'm just glad that I was able to get to this series, finish a trilogy, get an anticipated read done. Like, I'm proud of the progress there. And then I didn't buy anything in August because, as I said, I was really trying not to buy a lot of books. But then in September I bought 5 books, and again, I was finding a lot of really random stuff this month. Like, I bought a few books off the Love Oz YA page that are just random books that I wasn't really looking for, but when I saw the bargains for them, I decided to just jump and try and grab them. And I bought another book that's an anticipated read, but I think like at this point I was still not going too badly for book buying. Like, the first thing I bought was Conceal Don't Feel by Jen Calonita, and I have Part of Your World and Tale as Old as Time in the series, and I'm collecting them in the hardcovers, even though the first 2 don't have these new cover editions, which is slightly annoying. But I feel like every time I see one of these books that I don't already own, I'm probably going to like jump at the chance to try and grab the hardcover edition because it's a lot cheaper. But this is a Frozen story. It is quite thin, and I haven't even read any of the other 2 that I have, so I really do want to try and get to these retellings because like they're really fun, and it's really good that I'm seeing like a lot of like younger audiences reading this, but also older audiences. Like, I feel like these stories really do like transcend the generations here of reading. But these books might not be the best, but I'm still really keen to be able to read them like eventually down the line. Like, it's not priority, but if there's a readathon with a retelling on the list, I might decide to pick these up. And then I got Frankly in Love by David Yoon. So I've kind of been intrigued by this book because he's Nicola Yoon's husband, and I wanted to see how the writing duo team works here, even though she's not involved in this book at all. But it's fake dating, and it does sound really interesting, even though I have heard mixed reviews for this book, but I wanted to give it a go. I always planned on getting it in hardcover, so it definitely is downgrade going to paperback. But then if I don't like it, then I didn't really spend that much money, which I think works well for me. And after I read People We Meet on Vacation, I had to buy Beach Read, also by Emily Henry, because she is a great writer. I really enjoyed her stories, so I had to get her like first book as soon as possible, and I bought this online, and then I buddy read it with Miranda. But I really did enjoy this. Like, there was just a few quirks of like actually getting into the story for me, but in the end I really did end up enjoying this, and I highly recommend anything by Emily Henry. She's a great author. She's got a book coming out next year called Booklovers, and I'm just glad that I've already read through all of her repertoire, basically, like her adult contemporary repertoire, not a young adult repertoire. But I'm excited. Like, I'm caught up. There's not too much that I'd have to like read to catch up, and I'm just so keen. And then I also got Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon, so I bought their books basically back to back, which I did not realize until the second. But I have been waiting so long for her to release a new book after Everything and The Sun Is Also a Star. Like, it's been a few years in between, and I'm so excited, yet I have not picked it up and don't really have interest right now. Like, I think it's gonna be good. Like, I think this will be a really quick read, but I'm gonna save it for a readathon because it's quite thin. I think it will be an easy one. Like, I do generally find that in readathons I can get through contemporaries quite quickly, but week-long readathons are just not where it's at for me anymore, because I just don't get anything done, because I can barely get a book read in a week now, and then readathons I seem to go worse. But I'm still very excited, and again, just how beautiful is this book's cover? I love it. And then in October I bought 5 books, and again there was like 1 Lovers book in there, then there was a few anticipated reads, a lot of adult contemporaries, and a lot of things I've been really excited for. So this was a really good month, and I would say this is the last month before I started to go a bit apeshit crazy buying books, and I feel like I need to like rein it back in, but I keep buying more things. Like, I keep finding things I want to buy, and then I'm like, I need to buy them, I need to spend the money, and then it's like, no you don't even read quick enough to actually read what you even have. So the first book I got is Well Matched by Jen DeLuca, and this was actually my prize for winning one of the video challenges for the Because We Can readathon. So this is the second time that my videos have been been like in the drawer and been picked for one, and I was so excited to get this book. I actually got this as a pre-order, so this turned up a little bit later in October, but I'm still really excited. And this is another book on my Christmas Games TBR that I doubt I'm gonna get to, but if I can start it or even get to this book next month, I would be so happy, because I need to know how it ends in this trilogy. Or I think there's actually another book that's going to be in this series, so it might be more like a quartet companion series, but this one's about Mitch and April, and it's fake dating, and it's got everything I need. Then I got a copy of All the Feels by Olivia Dade. So no, I haven't read Spoiler Alert yet, and I got that for Christmas last year, and I've been so anxiously waiting to read this contemporary because I know I'm going to like it, but I just need to be in the right frame of mind. But the reason I did buy this is on Book Depository at the moment, if you pre-order a book at least a month in advance, they're almost always like $10 cheaper than when they actually get released. So there's a lot of books that I didn't do this for, and now they're all like $37, and I'm just like, well, I'm not getting you anytime soon. So the only reason I really jumped the gun here to get this one is I know I'm going to enjoy the first one. Like, I have a 5-star prediction feeling there. I've heard nothing but good things, and I definitely think the second one's going to be like just as good. So I don't think this is a bad decision at all. Then I got Woven in Midnight by Isabella Imbaniza, and I got this off the Love Oz YA group page. This is what I've definitely been wanting to read, because I know there is Latinx inspired mythology in this book, I'm pretty sure, and I do really want to try and widen my horizons of my diverse reads. And I really thought for some reason this book is in verse, but it's not. It's actually just like a full-on novel, so I don't know why I thought that. But this was one of the books that came in that book box where it's like they give you a whole heap of information, and when you get to a certain page number, you like either do like a game or read a book or read a prompt or read an interview. Like, it's very involved where it like gives you stuff to do throughout your reading experience. And there was a sticker on the book that didn't come off. So there's this bloody mark from the sticker, and it just doesn't scratch off, and I don't want to damage the cover, but I kind of forgot about this because it was just, obviously this is all you see when it's on the bookshelf. But I'm so annoyed about it because I took it off because I didn't get this book box, so I didn't need this sticker on. But why make your stickers so hard to get off? I just think that's rigged. Even if it's meant to be a permanent sticker, just make it so it's easy to get off if you don't want it on your book. And again, like every other book, it's there for me to read when I get to it, even though it may be 6 million years, but still keen. And I'm so excited that I can finally hold The Heart Principle by Helen Huang in my hands, because this book I've been so excited for to come out, because after reading The Chris Quoten and The Bride Test and waiting for this book to come out, and then it got pushed back by a year, which is completely fine because Helen Huang was having like really hard mental issues and trying to get her book done, and she was really stressed and anxious about it. So please, like, look after your health before you look after us as your readers. But like, now that it's in my hand, I'm so excited. Like, this is definitely going to be a priority to read at least in the first like couple of months of the year, because I've got so many books now that I'm saying I want to read in the first month of the year. So I'm feeling like all those books are probably going to be like maybe read in the first 3 months, who knows. But I'm just so excited. I really need to know how the story ends. I think it's going to be adorable, and we actually have an OCD main character this time, which is different from the autistic and Asperger's that we've had. But it's really cool that we're not just having the same type of autism, even though it is definitely different every single time for every single person. But I'm just really keen to read this story. Like, I think it's going to be a really good book. And then I bought my fave, which is A Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I am obsessed. This is a fake dating science story. It's beautiful. I have already read it, as you guys would know, but I had heard so much hype about it, and it's ironic because at first I had no interest in this because I thought it sounded really boring, and then I realized it was about fake dating, and then I started to see it on TikTok all over the place. But then I also started to just see all of my friends on here, or you guys, reading this book, and I was like, I'm sold. I'm buying a copy of it. And then a buddy read it with Miranda, and we had the best time. Like, this book is so good. I've also read Adam's chapter and just fucking oath, so good. And November starts it. I bought 9 books this month, but 2 of them I've already read, and I always count the audiobooks that I've already read as not a like actual book purchase. Like, they're a book purchase, but I'm buying it, but I'm not adding it to my TBR. Like, my brain's trying to work around the fact that I'm like, you buy too many books, so they're all books I do buy, but if it's received or an audiobook, it's OG. So I finally got a copy of Tools of Engagement by Tessa Bailey because I had the first two and I read this book last year, and it's like taken all this time to finally buy a copy of it because I like to finish my trilogies when I start to like buy them. Like, I'm really trying not to buy every book I ever listen to audiobook anymore because I just don't have the space to own all these books. But like, I'm very much a visual reader that I like to see everything that I've read. Like, I like to have a representation, and like, yes, like I would call like these three read and these two not read, even though it's all mixed together. So there's still like a lot of shit here that hasn't been read and a lot of shit out there that hasn't been read, but I just like to have the visuals. And I don't know if that's just me being weird, but I definitely stopped myself from buying like multiple editions of books, which is something that I love to see people do because it's really cool that they can be so obsessed with the book to want multiple versions. But I don't have the space for multiple versions, but I also find that I just only need the one copy of a book unless it's like a 10-year anniversary edition, which I have bought for a couple of books over the years. But yes, I'm just glad that my trilogy finally is finished, and this was my favorite book in the trilogy, so I definitely wanted a copy. And to continue on with buying Tessa Bailey's books, I had to get a copy of It Happened One Summer because I listened to this one. I think I was like halfway through listening, and then I bought the copy of Fixer Up and this one, but I'm really excited to have a copy of this. I really loved Piper and Brendan's story. It's like a Schitt's Creek inspired story. Made my night. I definitely recommend people reading this because it's just a really cute romance, and like, yes, she is prone to having really fun romances and then bam, sex scenes. Intense, but like, it's just great. Like, I really enjoyed the story. And then I finally decided to buy The Two Lives of Lila Bard by Josie Silvers because like last year or the year before, this book was everywhere. Like, so many people were talking about this book, and the other book that I kept seeing with this one when they were both being like released at the same time was that In 5 Years by Rebecca Surley, which is another one that I was keen on buying, but I ended up not buying it with this one. I like the idea of stories that have like split timelines because in this one, obviously, I think she lost a husband, and then in this one he's alive or something, or like something happens. Like, I know that there's like two different stories, but I don't know if it's going to be a situation of she needs to pick one, or are they just going to live through both of the stories and we get to see both sides of the coin here. But I think it's going to be really interesting, and I definitely think, again, this is a really probably a good pick for like a contemporary because it's got this kind of like sci-fi element, but it's also mainly contemporary, and I just think it will be really good. And then I had to absolutely get a copy of Aurora's End by Amie Kaufman and J. Kristoff when it came out because like, I've been so excited for this book because Aurora Burning killed me. Like, I wasn't a big fan of Aurora Rising when it first came out. Like, I read it, but I wasn't really that fussed on it. Like, it wasn't really wowing me because it was so similar to The Disasters, which is another book I read at the same time, but also to Illuminate, and I'm like, it's not special. But then I read the second book and I was like, shit, I take it back. So good. So I've been waiting for this book for like the longest time, and I'm actually reading it. Like, I'm halfway through. So this is a book that I'm really wanting to finish before the end of the month, but it's busy time with work, Christmas, gym, eating food, watching TV, doing things, and I haven't even watched The Witcher yet. Like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, but I don't even have time to watch TV anymore. So like, I've watched one episode of Lost in Space, and I want to do it so that I finish Lost in Space first because it was the first show to come out, then watch The Witcher, then watch Cobra Kai, and then other shows are probably coming out at some point too. But what's also exciting is I bought this from Booktopia because I wanted to get the side edition, and like, it's literally their signatures. So like, I have Gemina signed by them, and now I have another signed edition, but I'm just really excited to have this. Like, I'm so pumped, and I am really enjoying it, but it's been a bit slow and they're all kind of doing their own thing, so I want them to like come back together and hug. That's what I want. And then I decided to buy 2 more books from Booktopia because shipping costs $7, so I thought I'd make it worthwhile and buy 2 other books that I'm excited for, and both of them are in hardcover, and they were actually pretty reasonably priced considering that it's an Australian company selling you a hardcover. So the first book I got was When Night Breaks by Danielle Angeles, and again, this is probably not a great decision when I haven't read the first book, but it's got all the vibes of the Night Circus. It's a magical competition in a circus vibe, so of course I'm going to buy it, but it's got a sequel, which the Night Circus doesn't have. But again, I've heard good things. Like, obviously some people have had issues with the book by just not liking it, which is a normal thing to have with books if you don't like them, but I think I am gonna like it. It just feels like very me as a book, and I had to get the sequel because if I love the first one so much, then I need the sequel to read, or it'll be like, I'll buy it months later, read it months later, and then forget what happened. So maybe I'll try and read them back to back, like who knows. And then as I was scrolling through, I spotted this hardcover edition of Vespatine by Margaret Rogerson, so I was sold. I was like, yep, this is coming home with me. It's coming into my Margaret Rogerson collection. I have been buying her books every time they come out, and I'm so excited that she's got a new one released, and apparently this is the best one she's written from a lot of different people that have already read it now, who I really do trust their reviews. And I'm planning on buddy reading this one with Sasha next month, so it's gonna be happening soon. You will have thoughts and feelings from me soon. But I did generally really enjoy this book, and I'm excited to see what it's going to be about, because I haven't really read the synopsis, so I don't actually know what's going on. I just knew I had to buy it because I've loved her previous work. And at this point, I'm like, that's it, don't need to buy more books. And then I saw this trilogy in the bookstore, and I'm like, shit, yeah. So we have Storm and Fury, Rage and Ruin, and Grace and Glory. So this is her newer trilogy, even though it's not new because it's been out for a while, clearly, because there's a whole trilogy of them. But this trilogy is actually a spin-off from White Hot Kiss about Zane, which I didn't know about for the longest time until Grace at G Swizzle Books actually talked about it, and I was like, shit, I did not know this. So I made it on my wish list that I needed to buy these books, and then I was in a bookstore with my friend and we were just perusing, and the whole trilogy was there, and I'm like, I don't need this right now, but I decided I did need it. And I just feel like this keeps happening to me. I'm like, no, I'm not going to buy anything. And then I see something that I'm like, gosh, maybe I will buy that. And I just keep spending money. But also books. So I don't know when I am going to end up reading this trilogy, and part of me really wants to read White Hot Kiss again. So it's like, do I really want to commit to reading 6 books? And I'll probably start White Hot Kiss with the best intentions and then never continue like I do with all of my rereads at the moment. So I will see how it goes, but I have definitely heard good things, and I've just decided I need to start revamping my Jennifer L. Armentrout collection, because now she has a whole shelf dedicated to herself because she writes 1 million books a year apparently. But I'm so excited. I feel like this is going to go badly because I don't think you can see them all. I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it. Ah, there it is. This is what going to the gym helps me do. Oh my god. So guys, that is my book haul. I'm so sorry for the long video, but I definitely think I made the right decision to split up this book haul, because I would have just kept waiting. I would have just kept this building up for like the longest time. So, I'm so tired. That was so many books to try and hold at once. Like 23 books. It's too much. But anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!